What if I told you that the most powerful weapon against bullying isn't fighting back, but something so unexpected it leaves everyone speechless? This new teacher just proved that sometimes the quietest response creates the loudest impact. Picture this, it's your first day as a teacher, and you're about to address hundreds of students and faculty members. Your heart is pounding, your palms are sweaty, and then suddenly, the principal's son decides to turn your moment into his personal entertainment show. But what happens next will change how you think about handling difficult people forever. Sarah Chen had dreamed of this moment for years. After completing her education degree in student teaching, she finally landed her first position at Riverside High School. It was one of those prestigious schools where parents paid top dollar to send their kids, and the pressure to perform was intense. The morning started perfectly. Sarah had prepared her introduction speech, chosen her outfit carefully, and arrived early to set up for the welcome assembly. Principal Williams had been nothing but supportive during the hiring process, and she felt confident about making a good first impression on the school community. But there was something Principal Williams hadn't mentioned during their interviews. His 17-year-old son, Marcus, was known throughout the school for his attitude problem. The kid had grown up thinking the world owed him everything because of his father's position, and he had a reputation for testing new teachers in the most humiliating ways possible. As Sarah walked onto the auditorium stage that morning, she could feel the eyes of nearly 800 students and staff members watching her every move. The microphone felt heavy in her hands, and she took a deep breath before beginning her prepared speech about her teaching philosophy and excitement to join the Riverside family. She was barely 3 sentences in when it started. First, she heard snickering from the student section. Then someone made a comment just loud enough for the microphone to pick up. Wow! Did she forget to button her shirt this morning? The comment was clearly about her professional white blouse, which had a slightly open neckline, perfectly appropriate for any workplace. But Marcus wasn't done. He stood up in the middle of the auditorium, making sure everyone could see him, and called out in a mocking voice, "Hey, Miss Chen, are you here to teach, or are you looking for a boyfriend? Because that outfit is sending mixed signals." The auditorium fell into one of those horrible, uncomfortable silences. You know, the kind where everyone holds their breath, waiting to see what happens next. Several teachers looked mortified, some students gasped, and others started whispering among themselves. Principal Williams looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Now, here's where most people would expect Sarah to do one of 2 things. Either break down in embarrassment or fire back with anger. After all, this was public humiliation at its worst. A teenage boy was essentially calling her inappropriate in front of her new colleagues, students, and their parents. But Sarah didn't do either of those things. Instead, she did something so unexpected that it left everyone, including Marcus, completely stunned. She smiled. Not a fake, forced smile, but a genuine, warm smile. Then she walked closer to the edge of the stage, looked directly at Marcus, and said in the calmest voice imaginable, "You know what, young man? I think you just gave me the perfect opportunity to demonstrate my first lesson." The entire auditorium was now dead silent. Even Marcus looked confused, clearly not expecting this response. Sarah continued, "In my classroom, we're going to learn that our first impressions often say more about us than about the people we're judging. When someone looks at me and sees something inappropriate in professional attire, that tells me they might need help learning about respect and appropriate social boundaries." She paused, letting that sink in, then added, "But more importantly, we're going to learn that true strength isn't about putting others down to make ourselves feel bigger. It's about lifting others up, even when they haven't earned it yet." Then came the part that nobody saw coming. Instead of calling Marcus out or embarrassing him further, Sarah looked directly at him and said, "I can see you're a natural leader. The way you spoke up shows you're not afraid to express yourself. And that's actually a valuable quality. I'm hoping I can help you channel that confidence into something that builds people up instead of tearing them down. The auditorium was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Marcus, who had been standing with his chest puffed out, slowly sat back down. For the first time in probably years, he looked genuinely unsure of himself. But Sarah wasn't finished. She turned back to the entire audience and said, "I know some of you might be wondering if I'm going to be tough enough to handle challenging students. Let me be clear. I didn't choose to become a teacher because I wanted an easy job. I chose this profession because I believe every single person in this room has the potential to do something amazing with their life." She looked back at Marcus one more time, including you. What happened next was something nobody expected. Marcus, this kid who had built his reputation on being the school's biggest troublemaker, actually looked down at his hands. You could see something shift in his expression. It wasn't immediate transformation, but it was the beginning of something different. Sarah finished her speech by talking about her teaching philosophy. "In my classroom, we're going to make mistakes. We're going to learn from them, and we're going to treat each other with respect. Not because it's a rule, but because that's how we create an environment where everyone can succeed." The applause that followed was unlike anything that auditorium had heard before. It wasn't just polite clapping, it was genuine appreciation. Teachers were nodding approvingly, students were actually paying attention. And even some of the parents in the back were visibly impressed. After the assembly, something interesting happened. Several teachers approached Sarah to tell her they'd never seen anyone handle Marcus like that before. One veteran teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, pulled her aside and said, "In 15 years of teaching here, I've watched that kid destroy 3 new teachers' confidence on their first day. What you did up there wasn't just impressive. It was brilliant. But the real test came later that day." During lunch, Sarah was eating alone in the faculty room when someone knocked on the door. It was Marcus. He stood in the doorway for a moment, clearly uncomfortable, then said, "Miss Chen, I wanted to say that I'm sorry about this morning. That wasn't cool." Sarah looked up from her salad and smiled. "Thank you for saying that. It takes courage to apologize, especially when you don't have to." Marcus shifted his weight from one foot to the other. "My dad's been trying to get me to apologize to teachers for years, but I never wanted to before. You're different, though. You didn't try to embarrass me back or get me in trouble. Why not?" Sarah put down her fork. "Because embarrassing you wouldn't have taught you anything, except to be more careful about getting caught. I'm more interested in helping you understand why respect matters than in making you feel bad about not having it yet." That conversation was the beginning of something remarkable. Over the following weeks, Marcus became one of Sarah's most engaged students. He started participating in class discussions, helping other students with their work, and even defending new teachers when other students tried to give them a hard time. The change didn't happen overnight, and it wasn't always smooth. Marcus still had moments where his old habits kicked in, but now he had someone who believed in his potential instead of just punishing his mistakes. By the end of the semester, Marcus had transformed from the school's biggest troublemaker into one of its most respected student leaders. He started a peer mentoring program, joined the student council, and even gave a speech at graduation about the importance of treating others with dignity. Sarah's approach worked because she understood something that many people miss. Most bullies aren't evil, they're insecure. They put others down because it's the only way they know how to feel important. When someone responds to their behavior with strength instead of anger, and confidence instead of defensiveness, it forces them to confront the real reasons behind their actions. The story of Sarah and Marcus spread throughout the school district and eventually became a case study in education programs about effective classroom management and conflict resolution. But for Sarah, the real victory wasn't the recognition or the success story. It was the letter Marcus gave her on the last day of school. Miss Chen, you changed my life by seeing something in me that I didn't even know was there. Thank you for not giving up on me when I gave you every reason to. Years later, Marcus went on to become a teacher himself, using Sarah's methods to help other difficult students find their potential. He often tells his own students, respect isn't something you demand, it's something you inspire. This story shows us that sometimes the most powerful response to disrespect isn't fighting fire with fire. Sometimes it's responding with such unexpected grace and strength that you force the other person to see themselves clearly for the first time. Sarah's method wasn't about being weak or letting people walk all over her. It was about being so secure in her own worth that she could see past someone's worst behavior to their potential for growth. That takes more courage than fighting back ever could. The next time someone tries to tear you down, remember Sarah's story. Ask yourself, what would happen if instead of reacting with anger, you responded with strength? What if instead of trying to put them in their place, you helped them find their better place? Sometimes the quietest response creates the loudest impact, and the strongest people are the ones who can lift others up, even when they don't deserve it yet. If this story touched your heart and made you think differently about handling difficult people, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to Heartfelt Tales for more inspiring stories that remind us what humans are capable of when we choose compassion over conflict.